too.
Who
Is
is
Is that Ghost in the Machine?
right?
C2, what's good, brother?
What's up, man? How you feeling?
Man, like $1,000,000.
Hear that?
Might get a little spicy. I don't know.
Yes, sir.
All right, guys. Everyone tuning in, welcome into another episode of the Ripple Effect Podcast. This is a special segment. We are responding to the ripples.
Responding to the ripples.
So we have our topic today is we will be discussing, what makes a woman a good wife. The goal here is to provide the next generation of men with some insights in regards to some of the things they need to be looking for. So our goal was to put together a panel of both of men to talk about things that men do. We got some married gentlemen and we got some single guys just to give us some perspective. And again, I'm looking forward to a very valuable and insightful discussion with these gentlemen, and I know that they're going to have a lot of gems to share with us today.
Yeah, we want to basically give some knowledge to the younger men coming up. A lot of our young brothers are raised in single family households, so they really don't have that male influence, that man perspective about how to function in this world, how to choose a wife, how to find a partner. So we just want to throw back some gems, to the young bulls coming up, so everybody could have a great productive life, marriage, or whatever the case may be, whatever they choose for themselves.
Yeah, whatever they choose for themselves. So real quick, I want us to go through and have the panel introduce themselves, and then we'll go ahead and dive on in. So we'll start with Victor.
Hey, what's going on, gents? Name's Victor Venziant. I represent my brand, Accountable Masculinity. It's about men mentoring men, and it's centered on 5 principles with focus on self, avoiding unhealthy conflicts, respectful communication, and conflict resolution, discipline, legacy, and equity. And not in those particular orders, but just things that make up the character of a man that he can leave behind and go to sleep with mentally with himself at night and not have to worry about any unnecessary demons looking over his shoulder. So, keeping it simple.
That's dope. Appreciate everything and your efforts, bro, because we need brothers like you, bro.
Hey man, it gets spicy out there, but that's what I'm here for.
Of course.
All right, next we got David, Mr. C2.
How you doing? David Glover, aka Controversial Counselor, shorten it to C2. I'm an educator it's been 31 years, also an author of Cocktail Conversations by the Controversial Counselor, No Friday Foolishness by the Controversial Counselor, and also I have actually me and Herb, and you see him below. We do a Monday night broadcast in the Counselor's Corner, and our main focus is we talk about day-to-day situations dealing with relationships, friendships, families, health issues, education, work and career, loyalty, mistrust, the dating game, and child drama. So that's Monday night at 9 p.m. EST. So we kind of chop it up and kind of break down different situations, good, bad, or indifferent.
Perfect. All right, next we have Monwell.
My name is Monwell, man. I think everybody on here is relatively familiar with me and my style. I like to, as far as when we're talking about men and Black people, particularly, I like to elevate. I like to somewhat educate, and I like to mock. I think mockery and shame is a very good way to let it be known what is and what should not be. So I don't have any problem with making fun of stupid shit. You know what I'm saying? Real talk. Because I think we need to do more of that. I think we need to get back to a space where we make it clear as to what is and what is not acceptable, and we need to have standards and decorum, um, and have a clear path for men in general, but especially with the intent of this podcast to reach back out to younger men and let them know what time it is. Absolutely. I 100% agree with that. That's something I like to do. And something I look forward to doing more of. I do have a YouTube channel, Perspective. You can catch me out on that. But hey, just catch me on Facebook. There'll be some videos, there'll be some stuff popping up, and you'll see a lot of hashtag the foolishment from
Yeah.
me, and I definitely spend a lot of time mocking the bullshit. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, last but not least, we got the big bad wolf in the building.
Good evening, everybody. I'm the other half of the dynamic duo from the Controversial Counselor. As David said, we appear Monday nights on YouTube, streaming across multiple networks, actually, at 9 p.m. I want to thank you, man, Dane, for putting this cast together, man, because you got some esteemed gentlemen here, man. And we all do. And I, anytime opportunity like this exists, I always relish the opportunity to give back. I've done that through a variety of means, from coaching to AAU to setting up programs after school for education. So I'm always about teaching, and whether we all look through the same lens and agree or disagree, we all have one thing in common: we're here to teach.
Facts.
Super facts. So now on that note, we'll go ahead and dive into today's topic. So that is the main question that I want us to start off with as men, as we kind of alluded to off camera. There's a lot of young men coming up who are totally clueless. They feel that no one taught them how to be an adult. No one gave them the proper lessons, the proper tools, the proper knowledge to be able to go out into this world and just, live a productive life in general. And more specifically now, when it comes to a relationship, they feel totally oblivious. They feel totally clueless. As we all know, just from being in these digital streets and reading the popular presses, we see stats like, more men than ever now are not even actively pursuing a woman. They're not even trying to be in a relationship. They're not trying to date. They're not trying to court. They're not trying to have sex. And my question is, how do we build a community if the men aren't even trying to, mate, if the men aren't even trying to procreate, if the men aren't even, generally speaking, if there's no nation building going on, if men don't even feel comfortable that they know what to do, so how do we move forward, guys? Like, what's the first stop for these young guys?
I think the first stop is talking about purpose. I think if you don't instill or inspire purpose in men, it's going to be difficult for them to conceptualize anything else after that, because your purpose is the only thing that really drives you when you don't have, like, it's like, I'll use it in a real world example. In a relationship, you can have some ups and downs, right? And there can be times where you don't have any of the problem. Like, the other person in a relationship might have a problem, right?
Right.
But if you got something else to do, they're giving you a vacation from them for a second. It's like, oh, you pissed? That's fine. Let me go do what I know how to do. And you got to have an outlet. You got to have something to do that exists outside of your relationship. Well, most people don't have anything that they're good at creating, from just within their own minds, based on their own talent. And typically, there's a big difference in having a talent that helps other people versus a hobby that just entertains you. And a lot of these cats don't have a an activity that's truly centered on anything outside of individual expression that allows them to create community, outside of, I guess I would say, what I would equate it to some level of a trauma bond, and so once they get outside of that, whatever they get outside of that is very rare, and it's hard for them to be inspired by anything else. So I think a lack of inspiration is part of it, and it's about who they follow. Um, we get some audio feedback. Somebody typing and tapping on the
It seems
keyboard.
like we're getting some
Yeah,
snap.
I hear it clicking too. Yeah,
I hear it as well. I'm
I
not
think
too
that
sure
might be
where it's
StreamYard
coming
too.
from, but
You think is it just StreamYard? Because like now it went away. So
I think that might be StreamYard. Yeah.
well, because I felt like it was all over what I was saying, but I
it was.
think the lack of inspiration. I think you got to figure out what inspires people. And I think that is the hardest part about teaching and instructing. Like I got a lot of experience with being an instructor um, in the past, and typically when people sit down in the classroom, they know why they're there. But how do you make people want to sit down in the classroom? Like think about when you were a kid and you were 16, or you couldn't wait to get your driver's license. Why? Because you wanted to be able to drive and go to the mall.
Right. You want to be
You want
out.
to bend the corner. You want to be
Mhm.
out where the women at. You want to go to the mall and see
Yeah.
what they doing. Um, and before you got the car, you wanted a job because you knew that you had to have some money to buy, what I'm saying, the car or be able to put gas in it or something. But when you remove the excitement around these particular things and the community that activities and social activities create, or the social activities that are there are, sprinkled with violence, it becomes a lot of a deterrent more than anything. So I think
Right.
lack of inspiration is the main thing.
I agree. Before we continue, I wanted to. We have a new guest. We have Jill on the stage with us today, gentlemen.
Welcome, Jill.
What's
Welcome,
up?
How you
Jill.
doing?
Well, good evening, everyone.
So, as always, Jill, just a brief recap. Today's topic is obviously what makes a woman a good wife. Is it her character traits or is it her professional credentials? And our ultimate goal here is just to provide the young men coming up with some insights on the topic so that they will be better equipped, more skilled, and now have the tools to be able to choose a woman that is in alignment with their values, their views, their beliefs, so that they can be contributing members to our society.
Okay. Well, my personal opinion, you said is it character traits and did you say professional accomplishments? Did you say that?
Professional credentials.
Um, okay. So to me, it's definitely character traits. Um, what I do think about professional credentials is it just shows that the woman is a builder, right? So like, I say, oh, I have a bachelor's or a master's or whatever it is. I've accomplished something. It just shows that you are capable of doing something constructive with your time, right? But I kind of feel like those things are supposed to support who you're building with. So I never thought that those things were just for you to build upon, yourself per se. It was always for you to be building with a community, with a person, your partner, and things of that sort. So when those things are done, it's like a badge of honor. Independent of that, I think that women can get in a lot of pride. And then that's where you have these the issues in dating, where it's like this is my identifier. These degrees or my accomplishments makes me as a person. But if you lack character, if you lack integrity, if you lack just, sometimes just like an athlete, how athletes like spend their whole time just, playing basketball and all they know how to do is play basketball or football. And so they lack other skills. It's kind of the same thing. If all you have been doing is you're a what is it, like a career student, you just been educating yourself, you may lack certain skills to maintain a relationship. So just because somebody has those credentials, I wouldn't say throw them away, but it shows that that person is able to keep to a commitment. But that's not the full picture. So when people try to minimize that, I don't think it should be minimized, because it does show that this person has the capacity to build and to keep to have a goal. That's important. Those are marriage qualifiers in my opinion. But it should be character first, because you can be like what they say, like a educated fool, like that's not really saying much about your character just because you can complete a degree program.
Well said. Well said. Anyone
I
else
can,
have some insight to chime in? Feel free to
if
do
I
so.
let me chime in. One of the things I want to go back to when you talk about young men, and I often speak on this because I worked at middle school, high school level. Problem with many of them is they don't have no personal identity. They all everybody looks the same. No one steps out the box and try to look different, dress different, have a different style. It's just like a bunch of mini me's running around and everybody's looking alike. So I know when we were growing up, granted, if you had a nice style, people would end up emulating it, but you always tried to think outside the box and be different. Say, how could I look different so somebody can notice me? What fragrance could I wear, or what certain style I could have? But now in this generation, they all wear the same hairdos,
Right.
same style, and it's just like you can't tell. Everybody twins. You can't tell nobody apart from
Yeah,
each other in so many ways. So that's just
yeah.
a little tidbit I wanted to throw in.
You know what? It's funny you said that because I just came back from Philly. I'm from Philly, born and raised, and I just was home a few days ago, and so I was in the gym, work on a treadmill that was looking out at the city. I stayed downtown, and I just watched everybody and all the guys in Philly and the women, but they had a different swag that they was doing. But I noticed all the men look exact, had the same exact thing. When I say the same exact thing, they all had the black like track pants on, jogger pants with the New Balances and the white T-shirt. And I'm like, they all over the city, because I stay, with my family in North Philly or whatever the case may be, and everyone, to your point, was dressed identically alike. And I couldn't believe it. And I was just sitting there like, yo, this is blowing my mind how everybody has the same exact thing on. And that just was like mind boggling to me. Like, where is that coming from? Like, why is it that we don't want our own identity? Because, like you said, bro, like when we was coming up, it was all about having your own identity. You wanted to be different. You wanted to stand out. You wanted to be, you know, have your own drip or whatever the case may be. But now everyone just wants to be carbon copies of each other, and I don't understand where is that coming from and what's that's going to mean for us moving into the future.
Yep. Seems like Snap, Crackle, and Pop is back. My
Yeah,
theory is that it definitely has something to do with StreamYard, because since it keeps coming in and going out, and if it was really, our personal connections, then it would be a little bit more constant and consistent. So looks like it stopped again. But
Yeah.
again, I put it back to the floor.
These guys, it's a cultural uniform. You know what I'm saying? From a mindset. I mean, like what you see on the outside reflects the way that people think, and nobody is looking to stand out the way that we would like for them to stand out. I think we have to be careful with that. Truthfully, it takes somebody that's done something that nobody else has done to inspire others to do something different. Like I always say, to get something you never had, you got to do something you never done. You can't repeat what other people do and expect a different outcome all the time. Um, I believe that when we having a conversation about relationships, because that's what it's come down to in young people relationships and how we understand them, right? We have to take into account, well, who raised these young men,
Yep.
okay? And on top of that, we have to decide that if the way that they were raised reflects the lack of attraction or interest in relationships, then what do these young men want in general? And I believe that men in general, if they're raised in a loud environment, they want something quiet. And then what uniform does that take on? Does the uniform that they're already wearing attract what they actually want, or does it put them closer to what they've already experienced? And if
Mhm.
and based on that scenario that you just described, it sounds like those people are trapped, seriously in their own patterns that are familiar. It doesn't
Yeah.
upset anybody,
Right.
and it just stays in line, and they're cool with that. Um, there has to be a sense of adventure too. I believe men have a sense of adventure. I'm a bit of a nomad, like I
Yeah,
can.
yeah.
I love my wife, but she knows that I can pack up and get on my bike and be on the road for 3 days and live out of a bag too. You know what I'm saying? Because like I think men have to leave home.
Yeah.
I think that's part of becoming a man. I don't think that you fully mature until you spend time in different zip codes and around areas where people don't think like you. Where you have to learn somebody else's language. I think you need to move, and you need to be uncomfortable for a large portion of your life so you can appreciate comfort. So you know how to create comfort.
Great comfort. Right.
So a lot of people they're on a hamster wheel and don't even know it. But if they're not around, if they're not around people like Monwell, like he was talking about, like me and him, we're gonna shame you. You know what I'm saying? We're gonna talk crazy to you, and you know what I'm saying, because you have to be challenged and you have to overcome it. But if you don't want to be challenged, you don't want anything.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
I want to add to that and say, man, young men today, you guys, I'm not gonna say, I'm not gonna talk about you. I'm gonna talk to you very specifically. Um, Being told no, get used to it.
Right.
Get used to
Man,
being told no. And not only do you need to get used to being told no, get comfortable being told no. Get comfortable responding to no. Get comfortable accepting that every young lady's not going to be interested, that every job might not hire you, that everything you try out for and you think you deserve, you're not going to get. And
Right.
understand that nobody's coming to save you, because when you understand nobody's coming to save you and that you're going to be told no and that you have to respond to no respectfully and decently, you have some armor in this world. And when you have armor in this world and they understand that, okay, we just told him no, but he's going to move on to the next opportunity and to next opportunity with his integrity intact, with respect, with decency, then you start to hearing yes. And then as a young man, you
Yeah.
learn how to identify where the yeses are going to come from before. Like getting told no constantly teaches you how to search out for where the yes is going to come from.
Right.
When you're a young man and you call yourself out there, and I'm just going to simplify it to just dating and going to talk to girls, at first you don't know what you're doing. You're just trying to shoot at all of them. That's just what you're doing. Whoever you think is attractive, that's who you're going at. And then at a certain point, after a lot of that failure, you start to pick up on things like, okay, I remember the last time I got told yes. I approached a certain way, I looked a certain way, I smelled a certain way, and I paid attention to a certain type. And you start to these things start to become instinctual to where you get to a certain point to where, yeah, way back when you was a youngin, when you were maybe 14, everybody was shooting you down, but now that you in your 20s, you getting more yeses than nos. It's not because you're necessarily that dude, it's because your eye has now been cultivated to see who sees you and who's checking for you. And then you start to understand that with everything in the world, going into a boardroom, going into an interview, applying for a job. Like, go into the world and be prepared to be told no.
Mm.
Seriously, be prepared to be told no. And the only thing I would add to that is, young men, also be careful. No means no in every way, shape, or form
Facts.
possible.
that's so
In
dangerous.
every way, shape, and form, no means no. Right? You're not gonna go to an ATM, put your debit card in there. It's gonna tell you insufficient funds, and you're gonna bust open the ATM to get the money. You're not gonna do that. At no point in your interaction with a woman or girl or whatever her age range determines she'd be referred to as, because I don't do the female thing. Um, woman or girl, if you are told no, it's no.
Nope.
There's no other way around it. Y'all gotta understand that y'all are now in a generation, my era and my dad's era and my granddad's era. All those eras screwed it for y'all dudes to kind of play with the terminology of consent.
Mm-hmm.
No means yes, she really feeling. Y'all young men, I need y'all to understand with everything in you. If you don't get nothing else, don't even play with the term maybe. Don't it's not
Oh
worth
yeah.
it. It's not worth it. Take
It's a
that
young
stuff
life.
seriously. And again, get comfortable with no. Look forward to be getting told no. Look forward to it. Celebrate no. Oh man, I just got shot down because back in the day, we got shot down so much to where it became a thing to where like how well did you take it?
Facts.
You look forward to the roast session after you got shot down. And that's regardless of whether you won the and that's regardless of whether you won the genetic lottery or not. Don't think because you're a good looking dude that you're not gonna get shot down, because you will. And don't think because you're the funniest looking dude that you're gonna always get shot down, because you won't. Be comfortable being told no, man. That prepares you for a lot of shit in this world.
Man, you got to go through a thousand. I talked about the nose before too, and it's interesting because like it's such a double edged sword. You don't become a man without dealing with rejection because you get 1,000 no's before you get one yes, and that's where the
Mhm.
passion to defend your position comes from.
Mhm.
Um, because men make it look easy. Like generally speaking, when you talking to a guy that's done something and it's been somewhat accomplished, it
Facts.
looks easy. It's like, oh,
Yeah.
I know how to do that. Like my uncle was in the Navy, and then on my mom's side of the family, and then on my dad's side of the family, I had another uncle that was in the army. And I got a chance to compare the two, based on the way that they moved around. Every time I saw my uncle, he had a new car and a new chick, and it was like that looks pretty easy because my uncle made it look easy. And then
Yeah.
but when you join and you see other people that maybe didn't hit the genetic lottery, like you said, or maybe don't have the mental perseverance to deal with the day to day, routines, whether it be from working out or dealing with operation tempo from what you got to do duty wise, and some people either hit the genetic lottery, but they're kind of slow, in some kind of ways, and they can't accept no, they can't rationalize their behaviors and stuff like that, and that's what's going to hold you back. The truth is that your individual level of personal discipline is going to determine what you want. It's going to determine how close you are to getting what you want. That's it. Like if you could get a clone of what you think you deserve, even because meaning like you're gonna be a wild dude with a crazy attitude. There's some woman out there that's gonna be attracted to that
Mm-hmm.
because she's gonna see that I can act up just like them too. And both of y'all gonna be crashed out in my timeline, and I'm gonna be highlighting how stupid you are. You know what I'm saying? And y'all know how I get down. And but the most disciplined version of yourself is gonna have the most success.
Yep.
There's nothing that you add discipline to that gets worse. And if you add discipline to something and it gets worse, it's because you're probably doing the wrong thing to begin with anyway. So you're not going to get anything that you long for without commitment, repetition, discipline. All of that is discipline. All things good are aligned with the word discipline.
All of them.
All like if you think about everything that you like, want, need, if you separate what you got to do from what you want to do, what you got to do requires discipline,
Mm-hmm.
and everything that you want to do is about what makes you feel good, because what you want to do makes you blow off everything else. So if you live your life doing all the things that you want to do, you're going to blow off everything that's required for you to become refined, sharpened, precise. Like you need to be passionate about being capable, being competent. you're not going to get any confidence without no competence. Because like when you talk about, when you ask women what's some of the best attributes that they have to themselves, a woman will tell you very quickly, you should appreciate my confidence. But a man can't say that, because your confidence should be seen. You shouldn't have to express it. It should be seen on you. But if you haven't accomplished anything, you're hard to
Yeah.
inspire. You can't operate
Mhm.
autonomously, and you don't have any initiative. You're gonna miss a lot of opportunities to connect with people that respect the way that you move. You need to have something that drives you, that no matter what, that nobody can knock you off your path about, and withstand criticism, rejection, like Monwell was saying. All of this stuff is key to becoming a man of character that can be be a representative of some level of protection. You know what I'm saying? Somebody that can actually set boundaries and standards and realistic expectations. You know, all of this stuff is centered on somebody that's having a disciplined mindset. So you need to get in a situation where you are cultivating a mindset that is trustworthy, and you're not going to do that by sitting around not doing anything, being afraid to leave home, and trying to take care of other people's, live up to other people's expectations instead of your own.
I man, I want to let you know, and
I'm a mute.
some I, some I want to tap into real quick, and I'm gonna go a little personal here, not my personal, but a very personal story close to me about my father. And for young men, I want to stress something very important. You only got so many years in this world, and you got to choose certain things right. Hopefully the first time, but damn sure the second time. But hopefully you choose the right career path the first time and the right woman the first time. Hopefully. You might if and if you do that young and you get it wrong, you might get a second shot. But you won't get three. You won't get three. And let me express the level of importance of this to you. First of all, choosing the right woman, choosing the right career that's purpose driven. Can it be money driven? Yes, but if it's going to be money driven, then you got to live with the means to an end. So it's money driven for now, and this is the means to an end. If you're gonna be money driven career wise, cool, but just understand that it's gonna take your soul away from you, and that's the mean to an end. So accept that, be disciplined in that, and that's the easy thing for me to break down. That's real easy to break down. But a woman is a whole different other category, and I would say, man, if you cannot vet a woman for yourself, and I really can't get into that because there's no way I got the time. You need to find women that you respect that can vet for you. I'm going to repeat that. You need to find women that you respect that can vet for you, and 100% trust their vetting. Not 90%, not 95%. Leave nothing to chance. And I'm going to tell you a story as to why I know this to be true. My father and my stepmother, and whoever sees me sees this, y'all have to just take it for what it is, because I have no drawbacks from it. Me and my father have had this conversation. Everybody knows. So my father met my stepmother. We moved to Atlanta in the 90s, 92, 93ish. He met her before then, and she was an attractive woman. She seemed to be a nice woman, whatever the case may be. And he was happy. He was happy with this woman. They had a breakup before they got married. And when they had that breakup, it was a bad breakup. She went about it the wrong way. She kind of just picked up and walked out. So when a woman just picks up and walks out on you, that's a clear sign. That's the biggest red flag that you can get. That's one of the biggest. Let her go. Don't ever bring up.
Right.
So we were living in some apartments. We moved. He got help from a family. The family was
Hold what you got till that clicking stops. We don't want to miss your story.
Yeah, we got snap, crackle, and pop back.
Yeah,
Like I said, definitely has to be a StreamYard issue because
it's probably Iran. It's probably Iran trying to get back in.
You went to get and when you buy a house, down payment. Down payment.
Hold on, Monwell, because
Yeah.
it's still popping. Like seems like it's getting worse. So let's all of us who's not talking, let's try muting our mics just so we can.
Is it still there?
No, it's good to go. So go ahead, Monwell. Go.
All right. So my aunt, to help my father get this house, said, you know what? Here's the down payment money. And she told my father, this is a gift, not a loan. But if you marry that woman, this is a loan and I want my money back. That was the clearest indicator, should have been the clearest indicator to my father that this woman was not something my family would have signed off on. We're talking about my aunt, married for several years, my grandmother, married for several years. Anybody vetting this woman knew. My father decided to marry this woman. What did this woman do 10 years later, however many years later? She did the same thing she did before. He came home from work one day and she was out the door. Gone. Now, of course, my father had to pay this money back. And of course, that was a major setback. When you're 50 something years old and that happens to you, it's so much more destructive than what it would have been in your 30s. And it can take several years to bounce back from something like that, especially if you as a man were all in. So I say to young men, please, man, when it comes to the seriousness of relationships and marriages, if you don't know how to vet a woman, it's okay if you don't. Not all are equipped to do it on our own. We don't all have the script. We don't all have the list. We don't all know. Find women that you 100% respect. They probably need to be elder to a degree, and have them give you the rundown. Just have them meet her. Just do. You will save yourself, because divorces, yeah, you can get back from them. Don't fear divorce. But what it can do to you in the long term, because you didn't trust somebody else's vetting, it can be somewhat irreparable. So either learn how to vet, or you get some women in your life to vet for you, because women are going to vet women better than men can vet men. I mean, better than men can vet women, just like men vet men better than women can vet men. So get elder women that you respect, that, I mean, hopefully they're in your family and they love you. Like, hopefully if you got that, I mean, I'm asking for a lot. A woman that loves you, that you respect in your family, that can vet for women. Depending on what world you come from, maybe that's not available. But if you don't come from that world, man, go join a church, go join an organization. Find a way to where a woman can vet. Me personally, I didn't have that issue. Me personally, by the time I knew how to pick a woman, and you didn't even meet my friends unless I vetted you. So by the time I presented you to family and friends, they knew you were wife material. But I was blessed with that vetting from seeing so much and knowing so much. My father was blessed with it too. He was just hard-headed. Light-skinned woman, fat ass that he liked.
Got it.
You know what I'm saying? Like, you know what I'm saying? You got to get beyond all that stuff and say, you know what? What's best for me long term? And it's better to be liked and respected than to be loved. I'm going to repeat that one more time. It is better to be liked and respected. Respected first, then liked, than to be loved. A lot of y'all dudes is lover boys. Don't listen. Love. I'm not saying relationships need love. I ain't saying go out there and get with somebody who don't love you. I'm saying like and respect. However you want those are going to trump love. Respect is absolutely trumping love every single day of the week. Every single day. If she respects you more than she loves you, that's great. Settle for that. But yeah, man, get out here and learn how to get somebody that can vet women for you if you can't vet women for yourself.
Let me follow that. Everybody thus far has mentioned some fantastic points. I'm going to take something that everybody has said and I'm going to focus that. Victor, I don't think you realize how um potent what you said was. A lot of these boys, same thing with Monwell, a lot of these boys now that they're not being raised with fathers around, they're being raised in single mother homes. And what that does, coupled with the dating environment, what that has done to them is that it has misplaced their locus of focus. You talked about it, Victor. Kids, young men used to go out to aspire to gain assets to get a woman. Now that that woman has been removed, he's aimless. And some of them have got to the point where they're shiftless, they're not doing anything. So they're not going to school in terms of primary school. So they're not getting the diploma. So without a diploma, you don't even have the foundation to build upon that. So if you can't build upon that, how do you get into the world? How do you establish yourself? How do you even present yourself as marketable to attract a woman to where you can even practice vetting? All of that is done, and now, as I've said, when I ran for city council school board, every student, particularly a male, has 3 areas that support them: homeschool and the community. If that male student is only seeing a female representation of his community, he's going to represent that. Same thing with school. 93% of the teachers in school, whether it's be elementary or high school, they're all female. So he's getting this constant barrage of female perspective with none of the male perspective. In the community, what does he see? Same thing. So now, and David mentioned, now that these boys have no individuality, because women look the same. Why? Because there's safety in numbers. Men are not designed to seek safety. They're designed to take risks. Monwell said that. He has to branch out and find something. And like Monwell said, he has to accept no, because no is going to make him forge his way. And it's in forging his way that he's going to find out what woman is for him. Even if he doesn't have the innate information to vet, he's going to realize at a certain point in time, just like Monwell's brother, that, hey, look, she's not for me, or the stove is hot. I may not want to touch that. I may want to go find something that's more amenable to what I want, that's going to help me get to where I need to. And because they're not getting this information earlier, everything is delayed. So you talk about having kids, that's now delayed till the man, which is fine for him, is in his 30s. For the women, that's not. So now you have asymmetrical dating. You have these women that are saying, okay, wait a minute. If I can't find a man, I'm 25, I have 1 degree, I'm ready to build, but I can't find a man, I'm going to stop looking for him. I'm going to take on a role and I'm going to do things that the man should be doing for me. So I'm going to freeze my eggs. I'm going to go out here, I'm going to buy this home, I'm going to buy this car, and I'm just going to put blinders on and I'm moving straight ahead. So when they put these blinders on, they can't see left or right, no peripheral. They don't see the men unless that man is actually right in front of her. And this is what Kay Michelle was talking about when she said she wouldn't marry a bus driver. She would only marry the bus owner. Bus drivers owners start out generally as an employee. There are very few people, very few men who started out owning the company and made it to that level to where she said, "Oh, he's a doer." Everybody starts out at the beginning. But there has to be a baseline and there has to be a focus. And if that male's focus is on everybody else, what he can do to please them, he's never going to have the drive. He's never going to have the prerequisites to be able to do for himself. And I don't care what any woman says. She may want to be the center of your universe, but that's only after you establish the universe.
Yeah. I want to say something, but I want to hear from C2 before I speak, because he's been quiet and sitting back and uh, processing things, and I don't want to be rude, man, because I know what I want to say, because like I'm a solutions only individual, and I know we're talking around the characteristics of the problem, but I want to hear everybody out before I start talking.
And also too, Jill, we've been speaking about a lot, you know, from the men's perspective. We've talked about resilience, we've talked about discipline, and how those things are important for the man to create a universe for a woman to want to be a part of. So feel free to chime in just as far as you know, what a woman's perspective is on some of the topics that we've covered thus far.
Okay, because I do have an opinion about it.
Please share.
Yes.
I mean, one thing that I think that's not really happening is that people are not really like seeing the undertone of things. So just like I don't know what your name is, the big bad wolf.
You can call me Herbert.
Herbert, okay. So when you said when you were talking about, like, you know, young men being raised in single parent households and different things of that sort, what I growing up, I know, like, as a Black woman, what I've realized looking back, because I've had to go to therapy, and I think that that's a thing that's missing also, is that being a part of the Black community, we are traumatized and we are doing things to cope with trauma and just in flight and survival mode a lot more. You know, we're not talking about that enough. And I think that when people are desiring the bus owner versus the driver, is like underneath all of this is like fear-based decisions. Mm-hmm. So if you saw your grandmother struggling, if you saw your grandmother getting cheated on and beat on and all different type of things, and this is something that you observe generationally, you are afraid to repeat that. And some of us have been groomed, myself, by the men in my life, you know, relatives and the females, to say, hey, you need to set yourself up in such a way so that if anything happened and you need to leave, you can. And I think that if men kind of looked at women as afraid, a switch would turn on. But because we can be, the unhealed version of us can be aggressive. It can come off as masculine. You all are not viewing the women as, I have to protect myself behind my accomplishments because I'm afraid. I'm afraid to have to need you and whatever might come with you behind my back. So will it be, you know, and I know, like, I commented on another video that you guys did, and I said, hey, you know, what's going on behind my back with a man? You know, could it be, is it other women? Does he secretly like men? Is it, you know, is he hiding kids? Because we're afraid of everything. We're not saying we're afraid. We're not being vulnerable. So what we do is we hide behind our accomplishments. Like, hey, this degree will secure me. My business will help me out. My sorority, all of the different things that they pushed on us in society. And we've adapted to those things just to kind of learn later that this was a waste of time. Like, even with me, you know, I will tell people, or young women will say, well, how do you, just like what you said, Monwell, about vetting people out. It's like, okay, well, should the market crash, right? Let's say the market crash and all the men know how to do is work a corporate job. He lacks basic survival skills. So what happens is we don't all want the same things. So the women who are vetting men for the abilities that they should have as men, they're in the background. And so the Instagram models and the baddies and all of that all look like the same. They all look like they was manufactured out the same place with the lip fillers and the BBLs. And I ain't trying to talk about nobody. I'm just saying, you know, those women are in the forefront. So the ones who desire men for like character qualities and just you know, abilities that you know, like Paul Bunyan, you know what I'm saying? A man to just be a regular man, to know how to, we want to be able to support that type of man. But because we were groomed to be afraid, you know, fear the man. He might cheat. He could leave. If he's messing around with somebody, it's not, you know, they say, well, you know, I remember a elder saying, well, we didn't stay with, she's like, you know, y'all just leave for anything. We only left when the men gambled and when they were abusive, right? But when you think about it, all of those things, if a man is doing anything that's putting a woman in jeopardy for losing her position, she's afraid. So when women are talking and it's like they're not saying things that a man would really want to hear, but or maybe they're aggressive when they're talking, or maybe they're frustrated, The man doesn't see that as she's afraid. She's being vulnerable. She's afraid to lose a position. She's afraid to invest. She's afraid to let her guard down. That's being misinterpreted. So now I encourage anybody, younger women, much younger than me, to say, hey, go to therapy, because you need to know how to talk to a man even within your fear, and express that, hey, when you do these things, this makes me feel insecure. And so I'm afraid to allow you to be in a leadership position. I'm afraid that because you lack self-control, that somebody else might slide in my spot, and then everything that I've built and I've invested in is in vain. I'm afraid that, when you're going out and you're drinking too much, you might be missing some things. You might have missed that your homeboy was giving me the eye too much. You might have missed certain things that make me feel like you're not equipped to lead. Now, you can't just flat out say that, but you need to be able to express yourself in such a way that it can be received respectfully. But we wasn't taught that. We're taught to survive as women, especially Black women, especially if you grew up in any type of suburban, city. I'm from Chicago, so I've had to do a lot of work, to... Y'all understand what I'm saying?
Let me pop in real quick before I have to get out of here, because what she said, and again, I'm gonna make it personal. My wife made it very clear to me early on that she had a fear of abandonment. That was a thing. She explained to me where it stemmed from and everything. So she had a fear of abandonment, and she never wanted to feel like money was going to be an issue. When women can communicate those things in a healthy manner to a man who can receive them in a healthy manner, it gives you what you as a man thrive off of, which is fucking utility. You just told me, baby, I don't want the light to go out. So what does that tell me as a man? I got to make sure the light bulbs are screwed in. Like you told me what it is. So just make sure that is that, and this is this. And you mean I'm winning? There's nothing else. She needs to tell me nothing else going forward. So it's easy for me to show that I ain't going nowhere as long as you don't cross certain thresholds with me. And if you're a man that believes in getting your ass up in the morning and going to work, you're never going to have an issue with provision. Does not mean you're going to be rich and doing it like you see on Instagram or like your favorite influencers and celebrities. That's because that's not what most women expect, in all honesty. When a woman says she doesn't want to have to worry about money, it really just means she doesn't want to have to come home and find a pink slip on her door. It's the simplest things, gentlemen. And I would say when a woman can communicate and does communicate that healthily, you as a man need to be able to receive it in a healthy manner. And just with your utility as a man, you should be able to activate that and say, okay, that's nothing. That's nothing at all. If it's another thing, she has a fear of infidelity, what do you as a man have to facilitate to show that that's never going to be an issue? You just have to be the most open book of open books.
Yeah.
That's all. If she has a fear of you putting your hands on her, that means you can never use your physical presence in an intimidating manner. Whatever. If a woman can communicate those fears healthily, and you are a man that can receive them in a healthy manner, bro, that's easy. That's light work. Hope for such a thing. If you are a healthy man, hope for such a thing. I mean, I received it. I mean, but my vetting game is 10,000, so that's no problem at all. I got to get out of here, y'all, man. I'll do it again. I absolutely 100% will do it again. Just let me know. 6 o'clock ish. I usually can do it, but I got some stuff going on here in the next couple of minutes or so that I got to attend to. But definitely invite me back, Dane. I'll get on here and talk some shit. I'll be a little bit more animated. Next time I have a bit more of a haircut. You know what I'm saying? I'm gonna be in my studio back at the crib next time. I'm gonna be lit. I'm gonna be ready. You know what I'm saying? I'm gonna be ready next go around.
Facts. We appreciate you, Monwell.
Appreciate
Not a
that.
problem at all, man. Yes, sir. All right,
I
y'all.
see,
Y'all have a
I
good
see
night.
you during the foolishment.
Yeah. We gonna do what we do. We gonna do what we do. Nice to meet you, Jill, and the rest of these guys. I know y'all. Have a good
Yeah,
night.
brother,
You too,
brother,
brother.
Appreciate-
really.
See,
All right, man.
David, did you want to go?
Yeah.
Okay.
So one of the things that she said, it would be a perfect world if people would admit their fears, but everybody's poking their chest out and don't want to be vulnerable and say, this is something that happened to me in my life, whatever. And, I want to express that to you. But as a man, if you come off to say that, because you get influences from other people, sometimes older people, sometimes your friends, and say, oh, that's a weak bastard, or that's a weak such and such. So everybody's walking around with their chest poked out, and nobody wants to be vulnerable. And you have to be vulnerable if you accept the role of a relationship. You have to be able to talk about your weakness, because ultimately it's about interdependence. If I got a weakness, that may be your strength. If you got a weakness, that may be my strength. But we walking around in this mirage that with our chest poked out, like, no, I can't let them know I'm weak in a certain area. Um, and she's saying the same thing. So it ended up being a catastrophe in the long run, because nobody wants to say, these are some things I struggle with, or this is what happened. This is how I was raised. Because you have a lot of people, and they say the past was the past. That has nothing to do with it.
I
And you
hate
may
that.
ask,
I
yeah,
hate that.
but that's such a big piece of the story
It
of your
is.
life. And I'll let you go ahead, but I just, I like to just drop little things and
I
get
like that.
things going.
No, you're right, because I want to say something about the past part first before I get into what I need to say, because I want to solve the problem. And the past is part of the problem. Okay,
Mhm.
you don't have a story without a past.
Right.
So there's just no way that you can discuss what's wrong with you and get vulnerable without talking about the past. The and part of that is, like, when people say the past is the past, it has no accountability, because the next step is like, if you get pregnant by the wrong dude, it was like, if I had known. You can't say if I had known and not care about the past. You don't get it. Can't have it both ways. Okay. Now I want to talk about the solution to all of this stuff. I know how to fix it.
All right, that's what's
Uh,
up.
So what we're talking about are really symptoms of what the problem is.
Absolutely.
The solution is, we need to get all of these people that fit this behavior in front of us
Hmm.
and move them around section by section. And this is how I would do it. I would say, everyone that was raised with your father and mother married underneath the same roof, go sit over here. And then I would move all of those people over. People that was raised without their father altogether, move them on an opposite side. And any other mixed variation in between, you gather yourselves together. Like, you might have some foster care people, some people raised by their grandparents, whatever flavor of the month, right? And I would tell them specifically, you guys need to pair with somebody. If you didn't have your father, you need to be with someone that had their father.
Hmm.
Because the problem is that all of this conversation exists is because most people that's operating in fear doesn't have their dads.
Yeah, deficient.
Um, because, like, there's things that, like, I was raised in a 2-parent home, and I've used this to model, you know what I'm saying, completely. I've talked to a lot of you guys. Most of y'all have seen my writing. Dane has seen my writing, and I've broken this thing down to a science, because outcomes reflect a source. There's a set of ingredients that keeps repeating itself. A recipe has ingredients, and if you keep getting the same outcomes, well, what's the main ingredient? What ingredient is missing that keeps producing the same mindset, the same fear, the same scarcity? We keep talking about economics. You know what I'm saying? I'm scared of this. I'm scared of that. The reality is, this is what it looks like in the relationship culture when you got an entire generation raised by women. It's fear and scarcity all over, and there's no respect for men. and there are no dads. Okay. So if you get guys that come up in front of you that offer a solution and then it gets rejected because it's coming from a man. And if your mom raised you in a way to not depend on anything a man says, then you got to start thinking about like, well, where am I going to accept credible information and when? Now you go to therapy. You go to therapy, that's cool, but therapy just helps you cope. Coaching helps you implement strategy so you can win. So that's why when I talk to men and if they get into a situation where they sounding real bitchy, y'all will hear me say or see me say or write, you acting like you got your mama's last name. You know what I'm saying? But that's hard to get through to men. And then when you listening to women that want to go back and forth with you because they think it's an invitation to disagree and think back and forth communication is communication and it's not. It's conflict, you know? And but if that's the type of formatted household that you come up in, you're not going to be able to break that mindset, you know, going into a relationship because being argumentative is rooted in fear too. Because if you think about it, right, when you know something, you don't think about how it can fail. When you know something, you move in faith. When you don't know something, you move in fear. So you doubt everything. So when you hear, well, what about this or what about that? That ain't nothing but fear talking.
Mm-hmm.
Instead of somebody saying, hey, I like what you do. I like the way you said this. And I understand I got passion and conviction in what I say. I don't even need validation from somebody else telling me that. I know what I'm about. When I say do it this way, is because I know how it works. Like, and to add more context, like I was an intelligence analyst and still am. And I also got 3 or 4 years working in psyops, and I was an intel instructor as well. So I've taught people from both sides. I have to know what the person in the chair is capable of. I have to know how to troubleshoot. Most people don't know how to troubleshoot on anything because they don't want to think critically about it. But if you back up in your own family and you think about your behaviors, and don't even think about yours. Think about that one aunt that one aunt in your family. They keep getting pregnant by the wrong men.
Oh yeah.
And think about that one uncle that's got another woman pregnant. Are they raised by their dads?
No, most likely not.
The most promiscuous people are not raised with men. So all of this baby daddy, baby mama culture and stuff, those people are not raised by men. They don't respect the opposite gender because your dad would not raise you to be promiscuous on purpose. The highest form of a man that you could think of is going to raise you in the most responsible manner. The highest form of a woman in her most disciplined manner is going to protect her sons and help her daughter recognize what her value is and how much danger really comes with pregnancy. So when you don't have a man around, you got sons that mimic the behavior of the men that his mother brings around. And then you got if your mom was a teen mom, you're gonna be a teen mom if you're a woman. So that behavior can't be replaced. So that's why, like, when I hear people doubt the opposite sex, I know they raised without men. Because, like, in my personal experience, I'm pivot off Monwell. My dad's side of the family, he was one of 10 siblings. He had 7 brothers and 3 sisters. 90% of them got married. On my mom's side, she had 5. She was one of 5, but they had 2 fathers in the household. So her mom was able to get married twice at some point, right? And even then, if it was like a split household like that, my mom still got married. She's the oldest daughter. So my mom and my dad were married for 42 years because they very value family. I had 17 first cousins, and then all of those children got married for the most part. We did have one that got married and she had a baby by a crackhead. Everybody got one of them, you know what I'm saying, those one-offs. But generally speaking, the majority of the success in our families on both sides of the family come from women that respect men, because at the front of all of those situations, they had my grandfathers, their fathers were hardworking men, well respected in community and all of that. They were those dudes, owned a bunch of property, worked hard with their hands, participated in church, some type of structure that reflected being accountable and disciplined. So I was already cut from a cloth on both sides of my family that all lived in the same area pretty much, And but when you talk today, most people they first interaction with a man is the police.
Yeah.
There it again.
And most men don't have a structure of men around them in a family that can be somewhat of a level of initiation, because there's no ceremonious arrival to manhood for American black men in general.
That's something David and I have discussed.
Like the Jewish community has bar mitzvahs.
Mm-hmm.
The Latino community for their women has quinceañeras. You know what I'm saying? But there's pseudo initiation for black men without men in the family. They going to jail. They're gonna have to join the military. You know what I'm saying? And even then, these are pseudo initiations because you just understand how to be more useful. Because nobody picks up the phone and calls useless men, but useless women. Because these people are attracted to each other, but why are they useless? Why are they not useful? And nobody's asking that question why. And I think that it would be a hard truth for many young men and women to have to accept, because they want to rebut what I'm saying, because they thinking about the stories that their mamas put in their head about men. They're thinking about what they see on TV about men, but they're only talking about the men that they can attract. But they don't want to understand why they are attracted to those people, because a zebra and a horse ain't the same. Phenotype is one part, behavior is another. But at some point, that zebra is going to do something that says that's not a horse.
So it's gonna happen.
A lot of people are clones, man, and you think it looks like you. It has the characteristics, which is the outside appearance. But the culture that it was raised with is something completely different. And what the other part of it is there's going to take some humility to say we need to be retrained. But nobody wants to talk about that.
Right.
We can look at a dog and say the dog needs to be trained to go in and out. We'll look at a kid and say the kid needs some better home training. We'll train for a new job position. For a promotion or something like that. I got to go do this training on this computer. I got to go to the gym. You want to bench 300 pounds? You got to go work on train. You got to go train yourself to do that. But when it comes down to relationships, we think it's supposed to be automatic just because you're pretty, or just because you're big, or whatever of characteristic attraction is there. But we don't want to talk about the psychology that goes into what the outward appearance is aligned with. And women need training on how to identify pussy ass men. And then men need training on how to avoid the sexy reds in the damn uniform that y'all was already describing. But nobody want to talk about that. You know what I'm saying?
Woo,
so,
bro, cooking.
Because it's the truth. Because like men need to understand like how to identify a disciplined woman. Because there's a lot of hard truths about each gender that most women don't want to accept. They'll get offended by. Right. But they'll feel very comfortable saying about men. Right. Like for instance, what do women create without men?
Oh, nothing.
And we need to be honest about that, and women need to be honest about that. But that's the vulnerability that comes into it. Until a woman has a child, she don't create anything, and that's not an indictment. That's okay. Right. Because you're supposed to be in the mindset of I need to preserve myself to create with the right man.
Right.
Super facts.
And then the man, what's the value of a man that can't create anything?
Let me jump in here.
You see how they're the same thing?
Let me jump in here for a hot moment, Victor.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
That's something that David and I have discussed on our platform. We've asked two questions. One, What is a woman's responsibility to humanity? Number two, what is a man's responsibility to humanity? A woman's responsibility, whether she wants to agree with it, acknowledge it, participate in it, is to produce the next generation. Period. The man's responsibility is to make sure that that generation has a place to stay, has provisions, and can develop and grow and help the next generation come. Everything is a step process. What we have in Black America is our culture. Here in the United States of America, maybe in Canada, and other places where ADOS, American Descendants of Slaves, or free Black Americans from chattel slavery come, our culture is not what everybody else's should be. So everything is jumbled. Going back to what Jill said about therapy, the first thing we have to do, excuse me, shout out to the Nation of Islam, is have knowledge of self. And when you have that kind of knowledge, it allows you to walk naked into the world with your flaws in front of you. I've said this on our platform, and I'll admit it here. I am one of 11 children. None of us have the same father. When I first said that publicly, my brothers got backlash. And I said, why would he speak about his mother like that? Doesn't he realize how that makes his mother look? I'm not concerned with how my mother looks. I'm concerned with being free. And the only way I can be free is to acknowledge the truth. Now, when I was in these streets playing a lot of different records, I've often said that if I produce a child out of wedlock, because that's the type of behavior that I was engaged in, I would stop dating until that child became of age, because I owe that to that child. It never happened. But I got to the age of 30 and I realized something. The reason why I was dating the kind of women I was dating was because of my mother. Now, that was the undergird. And when I realized that, I stopped that. From then on, I've had very minimal, if any, problems dating. But I had to acknowledge what was already in me and purge that to get that out in order for me to actually start dating and seeing the type of women that was in front of me. A lot of people are not going to admit that, especially in Black America, because we're either too full of hubris, women, or we're too full of ego, men. And when we lay that down, as the Bible says, when we lay them burdens down and we come to each other naked as the day we were born, we see each other for what we are and what we offer and what we can do. But until people do that, and it's not, people don't necessarily have to go to therapy. I want people to understand that. I'm not opposed to it, Jill. But people don't. But what they have to do, above anything, is admit within themselves what's wrong with them. And just because something's wrong with you doesn't mean it's wrong. That means you need to fix it or address it. And mentally acknowledge that it exists. So when somebody says something, it doesn't become a trigger.
Right. Facts. Got to be aware of your triggers. I think, Victor, you always talk about that, the importance of being, you're responsible for managing your own triggers.
And I want to say something to what Victor said too, because I'm getting older now, I forget. So when Victor said, when he made the comment about the father, right? Because for me, like, therapy is a tool. It's not the only tool, but for me, therapy is just the act of applying accountability to me, So, but for me, what helped me was just God. And just like when Victor says, it's a father problem. And I think in general, we have a father problem with our connection to God. So I think that when we acknowledge that part that says, okay, well, because to me, most of the things that I've learned and how to interact with men per se, because I did grow up with men in the house, but those men were not righteous men. And I love the women in my family, but there is a scripture that says basically a wicked woman is a portion for a wicked man. Righteous men get righteous women. So if you grew up with a bunch of Jezebels that is basically like, hey, if a man doesn't take his rightful place, Jezebel will. And so if Jezebel is raising kids, raising daughters, and all of that type of thing, you're gonna be up under Ahab's. And the Ahab is just a man that's not standing up. So you can have because just because somebody has their father in the house, if he was passive, if he didn't step up, if he put the woman in a position to take on a dominant role because he didn't like he avoided confrontation and things of that nature, this is where we have these perverse situations, and these perverse situations are producing the single parenthood and all of those different things. So to me, for me, because I am a single mother, I have an 11-year-old. For me, I said, okay, well, how was I moving when I produced this situation? Was I moving righteous? No. So what was the fruit of the thing? Is it the man's fault or is it my fault? Now, I'm not saying that people don't have their own thing, and I'm not saying that because I'm speaking from my own situation. But ultimately, what I'm saying is that we lack accountability overall because we don't like to be told nothing. It's a pride thing. And when you disconnected from God, that's the thing, because God, he will chastise you and say, hey, let me tell you about yourself real quick. But he's doing so and so. He is, but let me get you together first. And I think that once you develop that relationship, that constant communication with God, you are okay with correcting whatever needs to be corrected. But until then, just like I just think in general, not just men or women, we all have a father, and I mean father God problem issue that we're putting that last. So when people say, okay, well, what's my, I hear men say, well, I want peace and I want I want peace and I want sex and I want something else. It's a common thing. And it's like, well, if you're doing any of these things outside of God, it's temporary. It won't last. It's not gonna last. So just because you want somebody to, and sometimes peace for certain men look like, I want you to sit around and be cute and not say nothing. You know what I mean? And those men lack accountability and a whole bunch of different things that they don't want to deal with. And I don't really feel like that's always my place or what I'm called to do. But I do know that just in general, what I feel, when you asked the question earlier about what is a man's role to and a female's role to humanity, I feel like a woman's role is to support that man's relationship with God, however that looks. So whatever his purpose is, my stuff has to align with your stuff. And then that's how you know who's who. If a man got a question, let him ask God. So if people say, well, I don't know what type of woman, who help you vet? God. Say, hey, you think she look all good, but that's a Jezebel, and so I'm saying all of that to say that I think that that's the thing that's missing in a lot of these conversations. Because you're right, therapy is not the end all be all. It helps me, but it's helping. It's not it's just a tool, like I said.
You gotta
But I
graduate
think
from
that
it.
yeah, but I just think in general, you have to accept like, hey, I come from a place, or I come from a family, or I come from these types of people who did not value these said things. Did that mean I should be thrown away because of where I'm from? No, right? We shouldn't. But God is a God of redemption. So we need to be redeemed as a community of people. And it's like how you do it is you work on yourself. You don't go and just say, hey, you, even though that might be a problem, you just start with you first. But if you lack an ability to you will lack self-awareness, you won't even start. It's just start somewhere.
So
I wanna echo your thoughts about God and the father figure that it does represent, right? I talk and I'm gonna pivot this back to what Dane said about managing your triggers, like I talk about all the time, right? Emotional discipline is the phrase that I like to use. Because if you don't have any emotional discipline, you can't even receive, apply, and practice. You're not learning anything if you're talking. So you have to sit still long enough to get the instruction, right? And one of the ways that you can respectfully model what I would say is God is wisdom, right? And the way that you do that in the most creative sense is like copy and paste the version of you in your mind, and then give it long gray hair. However you think you look in the future, because you ever get that stroke of genius like from nowhere, out of whatever you've been thinking about. It might have been a project you've been working on for weeks. Then that one day you're like, bang, I got it. And it might come to you while you're driving, might come to you while you're walking, or you actively doing something, right? That is the gray beard version of you. You know what I'm saying? Or the long haired, gray distinguished woman version of yourself. Telling you what to do in the present. Live your life to not let that person down. That version of you that you don't want to disappoint. You know what I'm saying? And you don't have to have anybody tell you what to do all of the time. You could just have enough. It takes enough emotional discipline to process what I'm saying. Like we'll go sit down and pay money and listen to all types of art and entertainment just to criticize it and say it's not real. But what is real? The only thing that's real is the choices you make. And where did you get your information from when you make a mistake? It's on you. So you might as well simulate the best version of you that you would take advice from. Because if nobody's coming to save you, then you need to be making the best decision possible every time. All your time counts. Every ounce of it is important to you, because nobody has a problem with coming in and wasting it. So you have to take ownership of that. So like when we talk about accountability doesn't exist without discipline. And if you don't have any emotional discipline, then you don't have any structure that anybody could trust. So that's why I'm so quick to read people's behaviors by the words that they choose. It's like in combat, because I was in the Army for almost 13 years, for those of y'all that didn't know, you could tell the enemy by the weapon that they use.
Yeah.
So if you see AK-47s, they probably financed by Russia, or it might be a Chinese knockoff. You know what I'm saying? And so you can, even without a uniform, I can tell who my enemy is.
Yeah.
When I hear the tongue of certain people and the language they use, they're describing their childhood. If they think, because like think about how crazy this is, right? Women that fit the emotionally undisciplined template love to say all men cheat, right? But that doesn't. But what doesn't register is that means all women cheat too, because who they cheat with?
By default, yep.
Okay, so which goes back to the scripture piece that you talked about, where the Jezebel women still end up with an unrighteous man, because that's the only man that they're compatible with. And I call those, that's why I say you got sexually undisciplined people, sexually undisciplined men and sexually undisciplined women. They're compatible with each other.
Mm-hmm.
Then you got people, but those households are raised without fathers.
Yeah.
For the most part. Or they're raised with weak men if they're there. Because they gotta reproduce with somebody. You know what I'm saying? So they set the template for how men and women vet each other to be distrustful of the opposite sex. I come from a sexually disciplined household. I never saw my dad run around on my mom. Never see my mom run around on my dad. But I still had some gaps because my parents didn't date. They were together for 42 years. They can't tell me about the dating market when I was outside. You know what I'm saying? So I still had some gaps too, where I made some mistakes, chose the wrong thing because I was doing everything in good faith. But there's some people that's not raised in good faith. Some people are just produced.
Yeah.
See,
Okay? It's just some people that just produced and they outside. You remember on Ghostbusters when they broke the containment unit?
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? That's what's going on outside. You know what I'm saying? You got STDs repeating themselves with each other, and you got to choose between chlamydia and gonorrhea. But if you didn't grow up with those, you don't recognize them, So you're going to get caught up. So it's some good people getting caught up in the wash too, because of the sexually undisciplined household children, and they're raised by the same cycle over and over and over again. And that's why we got to get more young people in front of us to tell them, hey, look at your situation. I had a consult one time, and I'm gonna hand it off to prove my point. this lady was telling me about all of these negative situations that she's had with men. I said, tell me about I said, I want you to think about the last 5 relationships you had, right? And then you can answer this very quickly. I said, the best relationship that you had, out of all the relationships, which one was the best? And then she named one. And I said, that's the only one that had his father. And you see her mind just explode.
Mm.
And it didn't work because she was the one that was raised by the single mother that couldn't accept the protection from the man that was raised with his dad.
Mm-hmm.
And I've ran that multiple times. And every time, 20% of the time, is the guy that was raised with his father that meant the best. The guy that she fumbled, the 20% man. She fumbled him every time because she couldn't speak the language. We speak different languages. So if you're raised in a 2-parent home, you're less likely to be attracted to somebody that comes from a single-parent home because the respect
dynamics
template is
on that.
different.
Right.
See,
So go ahead.
One of the things I want to add to it, and from the counseling world, I think most of us need to have like a genogram to go back in history and look at further behaviors and actions. Because if you ever had those conversations, I had the opportunity last year. We had a little family gathering, and one of my cousins dug up, researched, and talked about certain individuals. Some of that shit will blow you away. You're like, wow. And you'll understand where the behaviors came from when you had uncles or grandfathers who had 3 women pregnant at the same time, and incest, and all these different things that we don't want to look at, that we sweep under the rug. And a lot of times it's just going back and telling the younger people, go back. When it's opportunity to go to family reunions, go to these family reunions, build with these people. And I'm sounding like a hypocrite because after a while, my mother was like, oh, you should go to the family reunion. I said, I don't know none of these people. I don't feel like dealing with that. But now as I got older, I'm like, damn, if I'd have knew this, I would understand some of the behaviors that
If
I
I had
have.
known.
Yeah, and some of the behaviors everyone else has. And a lot of that is just going back, looking at your history, your family, you'll know that sometimes it's alcohol that's prevalent. You talk about health issues, you talk about infidelity, so many different issues that impact us that cause trauma because we only go back as far as the people that we actually know, can see or touch, but it was other people that impacted generations, 2-3 generations is the reason why you act the way that you act.
Mm-hmm.
But because we never seen those people before, we just sweep it under the rug. So it's big. And as far as therapy, it's only gonna work if you want it to work. Somebody can recommend it for you, but you gotta want it. And you gotta want to be the type of person to find a solution and realize, like, I got a lot of shit going on. Something gotta change. But before all that, go back to your history and attend family reunions and things of that nature, and you'll see it. You'll probably see people like, damn, is that my cousin or is that my damn brother? Very well, maybe your brother that look just like you. We got a lot going on. So when you talk about trauma based, we got a lot going on. Not saying other races don't, whatever, but I don't worry
I
about
was
them.
just unique.
I
I
don't
was
worry.
just,
Yeah,
I
I
was
don't
just so
worry
much
about
more
them.
unique.
Yeah.
Like
We a targeted community, so it's different for
it's
us.
way different, right?
Correct. Absolutely. There's a
Sorry.
link that I gotta share with everybody that I came across. It's on YouTube, and I don't know what the brother's name is, but he does a masterful job at explaining how our lower rungs of society have been elevated to the places where they are now. And I've got a question that I want everybody that's listening to ask someone that you're interested in, and you're not necessarily looking for a truthful answer. This is something that I have in my book. I know, Dave. I got to get that book out.
Sir, yes, sir.
I want people to ask this question: would you walk around naked? You're not looking for an answer. You're looking for a reaction. Because somebody that's comfortable in themselves will think about, well, I have nothing to hide. These clothes just cover my exterior, but if I had to walk around in a loincloth, I'd be comfortable because I'm comfortable with something. This is something I was talking about earlier. You have a lot of people that wear clothing just like they wear a mask, and it covers up a multitude of deficiencies, problems, and issues. Something else I like to say about this: there's problems and then there's issues. Problems you can work out among yourselves. Issues you need to seek professional help. We have a lot of issues in Black America that we are unwilling to A, acknowledge, and B, do something about it. And because we're unwilling to do something about it, we bring those issues with them into a relationship, and then we lay those issues on somebody else that's it was mentioned earlier, and then say, well, why can't you help me address them? Why can't you help me solve them? Because they're not issues that I created. They're not issues that are mine. Those are your issues. If you have a problem, I can help you. But the issues, you need to go sit down, maybe play with some blocks, maybe rejigger some things, maybe figure out what, like David said, was what went wrong in your childhood or your family lineage, so you can break that curse and get back on the good foot and back into society with the rest of the people traveling in the right direction at the right speed.
So, gentlemen, I mean, ladies and gentlemen, we have covered a lot of great topics. You know, we talked about the importance of resilience, discipline, structure, God, therapy, coaching. And personally, I think that any young man that will watch this will definitely be able to walk away with some valuable insights into what they can do to better themselves so that they can have better relationships with themselves as well as with others, as well as with a woman in this case, as well as we dropped some game for ladies as well. So on that note, I kind of want everyone to kind of start making thanks for that link, because I was just about to ask you. Well, that's Victor's link, but Herb, please post that link of that video in the chat so we can all go back.
Yep, give me a hot second. Yep, I most certainly will do that.
And then, and also too, so let's start getting some final words in regards to solutions. Both the young men specifically can take moving forward to kind of recap everything we've discussed, as well as just if you have just something for the ladies to take away from this as well.
Well, you want to start with me, or?
I mean, feel free. You can start.
Okay. Well, we got to do a process of elimination. If you're not getting the outcomes that you want, you need to go back to the source. Like what you're experiencing in the present is a symptom of what the problem actually is. You know what I mean? So like if you're meeting rejection, if you're meeting resistance everywhere, you're gonna ask yourself, why are you meeting resistance? And then you're gonna go do the homework to change your success rate. Well, you have to do that with every single thing. You have to do some troubleshooting on yourself, because sometimes you're raised by parents that never troubleshot themselves also. You're raised by people that don't have the same level of emotional discipline that you expect from other people. You need to do the same level of work with yourself before you go out into the world expecting it from someone else, especially unilaterally. When you do a process of elimination about how you respond to things and the way that you react, understanding your triggers, and stop putting yourself in such defensive positions and where you're at a disadvantage about how you can maintain your emotion, because sometimes a situation is going to put you in a space where you have to respond, and it's absolutely necessary for you to do. But you need to know why you're so familiar with those spaces. You need to know what draws you to that particular rhythm that talks to your soul, that makes that one person that you don't have no business with more attractive than the one that you can learn from. You need to figure out who's actually inviting you and who's supporting you where you stand. You need to know the the difference between going where you're being requested and being invited to come play over here. Both going to have a different level of enthusiasm, but the difference between the two is the level of discipline that it requires to participate in both. You have to trade something, and there's a difference between character and characteristics. And I think that if you can discern between those two, you'll see the part of your life where you used to be a clone before you became a whole person.
Big Bad Wolf. Final words.
I'm trying to find that video.
All right, we'll come back to you.
Go ahead, Steve, come back to me. Let me see if I can find that video.
Mr. Glover.
Yeah. So in education, they always talk about sit time. Times you need to sit in the classroom and be instructed. As adults, sometimes we have to have sit time with people that we value, that we respect, and we trust. A lot of our conversations is drive-by conversations. Hey, how you doing? Somebody drops something, you keep going. Sometimes you got to sit for a while and absorb and get knowledge from certain people to move forward. And if you just keep doing stuff by a drive-by, you're only going to get minimum knowledge or whatever the case. So sometimes you just got to sit your ass still and listen, whether if it's your grandparents or something. And I know sometimes you're like, oh, I heard this story before. But sometimes as they get older, those conversations are more meaningful. So whoever it is in your family, it's your lineage that's older, you got to get sit time from them to be able to understand who you are. Because other than that, shit, you just probably a shell of who you think you can be, or you're kind of holding back the potential or the barriers that you could kind of break down to be a better person.
Jill.
So are we leaving our last remarks for young men and young women?
Young men and young women.
Okay. So for young men, I would say that develop healthy coping mechanisms while you're young. So that way, as life happens, you'll already have different things in place where you won't seek out negative things to help you endure life. A lot of y'all are talented. You have gifts that if you sit down for a minute and try to cultivate certain gifts that you have from God, your gifts are for other people. So he put them in there to help develop other people and to be used. You a tool. So you just have to decide who you will allow to use you, good or bad. Okay. I would also say to also seek what your purpose is and tap into that. Get your confidence from God. If you come from a single mother, you can't help that. But that don't mean that you need to be thrown away. What it means is that you will have to do a little bit more to develop yourself. But God will send you every tool that you need. He'll send you mentors, coaches. You'll get exactly what you need because your Heavenly Father is a far better earthly father than you could ever have anyway. Even if your father is superb, it's still, nobody lasts forever. So if that is the case and you come from a disenfranchised family, single parenthood, poor neighborhood, anything can be changed. Your situation can change overnight. So don't count yourself out because of that. Because I know a lot of men are insecure about being sons of single mothers. I hear it a lot, even with older men. Also, I would say therapy is not just for women. Try it, especially if you have a mother wound, because mother wounds will affect how you show up in relationships. So it's good to do that work and have help with how you view your mother, because that will affect how you view women. And then you can start moving around a little too much to make up for that mother wound, and nobody should have to pay for things that you had the opportunity to fix. Same way with women. Hold yourself accountable first. Know that your identity should be rooted in God first, that you have a purpose. And I do believe it is to assist men. So you can't disrespect somebody or disrespect the people who or the position that God put in men's or put the position that God put on men to help provide and to protect you. So you have to have a strong reverence for God, which will help you have a better reverence for men. And then if you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. The type of men that show up will change. The type of men that's interested will. You might have some lonely seasons until you get developed, but you need to allow God to develop you. And for me, it's God. The answer is God.
That's what's up. I want to first say something. I want to thank each and every one of y'all for taking the time out for being a part of this. I thought I would be seeing more the wisdom and the gems that you guys dropped. Just left me to the point where, like C2 said, I had to sit my ass down and listen and be still. To the gems that was being dropped. Because I'm on a journey myself, and I'm learning and I'm figuring things out. Like we said, sometimes there's a negative connotation when you come from a single female household and you're a man trying to find your footing and things. I messed up a lot of relationships and things like that in the past, so I'm definitely on a trajectory to try to correct some things that some mistakes that I made. In regards to solution, I'm all about solutions, so that's why I love what you said, Victor, about let's come to some solutions. One thing that I could say to younger men, I think one of the gentlemen said, since we all on this on our cell phone, we could use this as a tool. I don't think we're going to stop the young generation from scrolling. I don't think they're getting rid of this. So, reprogram your algorithm. If whatever it is that you want to change or you want to see, I know that's been a helpful tool for me. Going through my journey, I wanted to be more productive, be more responsible, be more financially literate and things like that. So I started implementing and putting those things in my algorithm. So when I'm on this nonstop, like we all are, I'm feeding myself with things that can really help me and guide me in the way that I need to go. We're not going to get the young generation. They're not going to sit down and listen to us as men, kind of tell them what to do, or they really don't want to hear that. But if they can be introduced to that information on a everyday journey, like on their phones and stuff like that, I think that's a good way to get that information to them, to try to guide them to reprogram their algorithm. And like we made some very great points here. Another great point was as a young man, find some great women to help vet the women that you would want. I think that was the guy that
was Monwell
that got off to say, find some great women to help you vet women, because women are better at vetting women, just like men are better at vetting men. To your point, Jill, therapy is not the solution or the only thing, but it is a tool. And I currently I'm in therapy as well, and things like that. So everybody might not take therapy because there's sometimes a negative connotation when it comes to therapy. But I suggest, and I appreciate all you guys, because you really helped me. I didn't think this was going to be this experience for me. I thought this was going to be something totally different. I'm usually putting a lot of input in, saying things, but I was like, you got to know when that all right, you need to sit back and listen, because they saying some real shit here. So I really appreciate you guys. I really appreciate you.
Yeah, and on that note, I'll just say my last words as well. Again, appreciate you guys for making the time. Appreciate you for being here. This is the first of many as far as Will and I are concerned, and we would definitely love to have you all back, because I personally believe that you all gave some very useful, some very valuable, some very insightful knowledge that any man or woman will be able to look back on this replay and be able to take something of substance, something of value away from this, and be able to implement it into their life right here and right now, and be able to move forward. So young men and young women, listen. That's what I would say. We do have these phones, and as Will just shared, we are scrolling. But if you change your algorithm and you decide that you want to improve yourself in whatever areas of life, and you start to add that, into your digital mix, you will begin to be exposed to that information, and those seeds will begin to be planted, and slowly but surely, these new ideas, these new transformations will begin to sprout into beautiful forests, ideally. And make sure you follow all the people that you've seen on this thread. On this video today. So be sure to go to Victor, the Davids, the Herberts, as well as the Jills. I believe everybody, as well as Monwell. Like to Will's point, I had a totally different vision of how this was going to be executed. But as Will just said, the game was just so good, I had to sit my ass down and just listen. So to me, this felt like a masterclass in life. And I definitely believe we were able to hit the nail on the head in regards to just being able to, pull our resources, pull our talents together to be able to produce a piece of content. To me, that's going to be evergreen, and that anybody who goes back and looks back at this again, they'll be able to pull out something of use value. So again, appreciate you guys, and we definitely look forward to having you guys back. And in closing, we'll have the Big Bad Wolf, lead us off, and then we'll be done for the day.
I think I saw somewhere somebody said something about everybody here writing a book. I want people to realize something about your life. You are your own narrator. If you do not like your story, rewrite it. Not only do you have the power, you have the authority, because no matter where you go, there you are.
There
You want a different outcome? Do things differently. David's always keen to saying, and it's been said, if you want to get comfortable, you have to get uncomfortable. Mm-hmm. That means if you tired of being overweight. Right now, as I'm sitting, I'm 300 pounds. I'm down 12 pounds. My goal by the end of this year is to be at 210 pounds. That's 90 pounds. That's a half a pound a day. Yeah, that's a half a pound a day. I update every Monday night. So with that said, people, the power is in your hands.
Absolutely.
If we want to transform Black America, we start with the individual. Mm-hmm. When we start with the individual, we move it through the home, through the community, and then to the group. And that's where we're going to see the gains. But you got to start here. Don't blame anybody else. Don't blame your mother. Don't blame your father. They did what they could with what they had. And now it's up to you to use the tools that's in your toolkit to change your outcome.
Mm-hmm. All right, before Victor goes, David and Herbert, please let everybody know how they can follow up with you guys on your platform and on your show. And Jill, if you have anything that you'd like to share as far as people being able to follow with you, or if you have anything that you'd like to promote, please do so at this point.
Well, you can follow us in the Counselor's Corner Facebook group. Just look up go on Facebook and look up Counselor's Corner is there. And then as far as YouTube, Controversial Counselor, subscribe to that. And once you get on that, you'll see all the all the other activity. So that would be my best suggestion right now.
Jill?
I don't have anything. No, man, Jill just had all the gems today too.
We'll say, Jill, is based upon what I've heard today, you definitely have a book in you. So
I wrote a book.
See, look, hold it out. Look, hold it out, man.
I wrote some books. I write books. That's what I do. I write books.
Well, how many do you have?
2.
Or give the people one so they can support you.
Well, I'm working on it, but I mean, I published it and I took it down, and then I got another book. It's a children's warfare book, and I'm trying to figure out how I want to distribute it right now. So I haven't really worked it out, but I'll let you know as soon as I do.
Okay.
Please let us. Please do. Please do.
All right. So all right. So I've written 3 books, but this is like my flagship book right here. Accountable Masculinity. This is my brand. It's centered on 5 principles. The first one being men focus on themselves, which is accountable masculinity. Rule number 1. Rule number 2, we don't argue with women. Rule number 3 is decentralized leadership, knowing when to lead and when to follow. Rule number 4 is legacy and equity, knowing and believing that what you do 80% of the time will be reflected in your outcomes, good or bad. So you need to be enthusiastic about doing the right thing, you know, get to that mindset, that discipline mindset. That's what this book is about, identifying the disciplined man in you. And then the most important one, in my opinion, is rule number 5, is sexual discipline. Just because you can doesn't mean you should entertain sexual attention from everybody that shows it to you. That is the number one thing that you control. It is self-inflicted wounds are the worst wounds. So that's one self-inflicted wound that regardless of how much mutual blame you think that is shared, you can't separate yourself from it because you got equity in your own problem. You can find this book on Amazon, as you can see, and you could also see me on my author page, and I'll show you my other couple books too. You'll see my my bio, and the second book was The Business of Me. So you got a couple of reviews on this thing, and it's about illuminating the past to bring change to your future, kind of what we were talking about today.
Right.
This is a more of a memoir for about my own individual life, because I've been preparing for greatness, and people want to get them in your business. You got to give them something to buy, you know. Make them pay for your personal life, you know. And then this was my first book, The Code, a Blueprint to Achieving Solidarity Among Reasonable Black People, because we're all separated by behavior and choices, man. That's where we determine safety. That's where we determine like-mindedness. And you got to understand that sometimes you're in the wrong room, you know, and sometimes your conversation isn't for everybody, but it should not be taken as offensive. It should be an indication that, you know what, man, my bad. Let me just move around and go where I need to be. You know, it's about sometimes we get caught up in a level of conversations that sound like we're entitled.
Mm-hmm.
And we don't realize it until we get a little bit more wisdom and experience. And I'm a firm believer that you got to create your own privilege. And if nobody's saying what needs to be heard, then that's your calling to set the space for that. Dang, you seen it when I created that Facebook group.
Mm-hmm.
And I've made it work. I got a podcast called Beyond the Algorithm, so which is funny. If you talk about changing your algorithm, that's why I created, you know, my podcast, my second podcast, because life happens beyond the algorithm.
Mm-hmm.
So we have to learn to think beyond the algorithm, move beyond the algorithm, and communicate beyond the algorithm. So yeah, life is binary, man. You either make a disciplined decision or an undisciplined decision. Period.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, we have come to the conclusion of today's stream. Again, we both appreciate everybody for making the time to be with us today. We will be doing this, or our goal is to do at least one of these a month, the last Thursday, 3 p.m. Pacific, 6 p.m. Eastern. So the links will always be on the Ripple Effect Podcast social media pages for those who want to participate and chime in. You know, again, we got an open door policy. So on that note, thank you again for all of our participants. Thanks for all those who are viewing, as well as all those who will be viewing this in the future. And we look forward to doing this again with you guys. Make it a great day.
Brothers.
Peace.
Indeed,
All right,
man.
peace.
Appreciate it.
Thank
Bye,
Take
you.
care, everybody.
Bye, y'all.
Be bad wolf.
All right,
See
Jeff.
ya.
Pretty sound.
Right.